Sir, are you quite all right? You haven't been yourself lately.
It's just, I'm worried about the COVID welder. I mean, I'm glad that his virus is dying, but at the same time, I'm starting to feel afraid of what he'll do, which might ruin my reputation.
Don't you worry, sir. The Reviewers police just called back recently, and they told me that they'll be sending you backup protection in a few days.
Well, that's a relief. But I'm also worried for an upcoming movie that I'm really looking forward to seeing in theaters and blogging soon. And I understand that you did your best to explain to the viewers about my connections to the animated franchise and why I'm hyped to see it. But on the other hand, I'm scared that several racist idiots might backlash me and call me names like Captain Pedophile or some made-up W phrase that's supposed to be a verb.
Sir, remember what you've been telling everybody on social media lately? Never let them see that they get to you.
You're right, computer. I shouldn't let those jerks get to me. But when it comes to blogging something like that, I think it's something that I may not be able to handle on my own. So, computer, I may need you to do me a favor while I work on 6 following blogs.
What would you like me to do, sir?
I need you to search through your data and find a collaborator who can help me.
Yes, sir. You can count on me.
In the meantime, cue the logo. Ahoy there, mateys. I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Well, friends, you all knew I was going to get to this sooner or later. It's time once again to talk about Peter Pan. If you may recall, I've looked at several different film adaptations based on the beloved 1904 play by J.M. Barrie. Several examples being the 2003 movie starring Jeremy Sumpter and Jason Isaacs, the awful 2015 Pan film starring Levi Miller, 3 of the Tinkerbell spin-offs by Disney Toon Studios, and of course, Walt Disney's classic animated version from 1953 starring Bobby Driscoll, which has reached its 70th anniversary, and its theatrical sequel, Return to Neverland. Now, the reason why I decided to talk about Peter Pan again is because my friends and family at Musical Theater Village is getting close to performing it, and like in 2017, I've been cast as Captain Hook's first mate, Mr. Smee again. By the way, for those who don't know, their take on J.M. Barrie's play is based on the 1954 stage musical, which later became a TV special starring Mary Martin in 1960. By the way, I'm kind of surprised that my Aunt Marguerite Sprague just unexpectedly bumped into Mary Martin at the Macy's in San Francisco a while ago. Anyway, that special is a topic for another time. For the version that I'm going to be looking at today is a recent live-action adaptation that was streamed to Disney Plus about a month ago. But is it any good in my eyes? Well, let's find out. Released to Disney Plus on April 28th, 2023, the movie is Peter Pan and Wendy. Now, on for the plot of the movie. Wendy Darling, a young English girl afraid to leave her childhood home behind, meets Peter Pan, a boy who refuses to grow up. Alongside her brothers and a tiny fairy named Tinkerbell, she travels with Peter Pan to the magical world of Neverland. There, Wendy encounters an evil pirate captain, Captain Hook, and embarks on a thrilling and dangerous adventure that will change her life forever. So, what do I think of the movie? Well, to be quite honest, I enjoyed it. Sure, it's not better than the 1953 animated version or the 2003 version, but it's a much better version than Pan, that's for sure. But now, let's move on to Mustang notes. The director of the film was David Lowery, who also wrote the film's script with Toby Hallbrooks. Fun fact, both Lowry and Hallbrooks previously worked together on the 2016 remake of Pete's Dragon. Also to note, Jim Whittaker served as producer on the movie. In February 2018, Whittaker stated that the script was entering early stages of development. He further explained that the film will be grounded in realism, though it will also be a big, rollicking adventure too. By October of the same year, the fourth draft of the script had been completed, with a fifth draft underway. Lowry stated that the number one priority is getting the script right. He elaborated that the project is very personal to him, as he is a fan of the original, acknowledging that he had been agonizing over every little detail. He confirmed that the modern-day adaptation would have to change elements in order to avoid the racial stereotypes present in the original film. In December 2019, Lowry stated that he and Hallbrooks had written an additional draft and a half at that point, adding that it would have to have a few more drafts to go before it is ready to be filmed. He described working on the film as challenging due to both his personal love for the original film and its popularity among fans. He also felt that he had to justify the film's existence due to the other live-action Peter Pan films having been developed, while also doing justice to the original source material. The filmmaker stated that the outlook that he and the studio has is, if it has to be done, it has to be done right. Comparing his work on Peter Pan to Pete's Dragon, the filmmaker stated that the latter was less stressful, seeing as the original had been an under-the-radar Disney title with very little following, which allowed him more creative freedom. By 2020, the film was officially titled Peter Pan and Wendy. Joe Roth joined the film's production team as additional producer. Production for Peter Pan and Wendy took place in Vancouver, British Columbia. It was originally set to begin on April 17, 2020 and wrap up in August 2020, but filming was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So instead, filming began on March 16, 2021. Additional filming took place on the Bona Vista Peninsula of Newfoundland and Labrador in August 2021. Scenes were also filmed in the Faroe Islands. Reshoots took place in Vancouver from February 2nd to 8th, 2022. The visual effects were handled by Framestore and DNEG. Now, I suppose you're wondering why the film is titled as Peter Pan and Wendy. Well, it's because the title is an homage to one of the alternate titles of the original play and novel Peter Pan and Wendy. Anyway, I got to watch this movie a few times on Disney+. The first 2 times were shared by several of my closest friends from Vocational Visions. And to us, this was a pretty good movie, and I thought the look of Neverland was absolutely breathtaking with a wide open green environment. However, there are a couple things that are slightly different from the original animated film. For example, the mermaids from Mermaid Lagoon are only shown swimming in the ocean, and Peter Pan's hideout isn't technically the inside of a tree or underground. Also, I think the scenes in the Darlings nursery are pretty sweet moments, and I think the flying scenes are absolutely amazing. Also, I think this remake has a pretty decent message about growing up, and I think the musical score, composed by Daniel Hart, is pretty good, and also very nostalgic in some parts, like when we hear the instrumental snippet of You Can Fly, while Peter, Tinkerbell, Wendy, and her brothers fly through London to Neverland. Plus, I like that there are 3 new songs featured in this movie. Also to note, I think the fight scenes between Peter and Hook would have to be the funnest parts of the whole movie, especially the final one on the Jolly Roger. And that's all I got for Mustang notes. So let's move on to the cast. Our hero, Peter Pan, is played by Alexander Maloney, marking this as his first film role. Like most versions, Peter starts off as an arrogant, reckless boy who insists that he's always right and always wins, with defeat never really crossing his mind, even when asked. He even won't admit that he needs help from others when he brags about his achievements. But after nearly dying to Hook during their second encounter, Peter learns humility and he credits his friends for making him strong. Also, I think Peter is still very sneaky and playful, and I like the fact that he uses a sword instead of a dagger while fighting Hook. Plus, I thought his backstory on why he ran away to Neverland was pretty similar, but a little different to how it was described in the original play. Also, for his first film role, Alexander Maloney does a pretty good job playing Peter. Next we come to Peter's loyal companion, Tinkerbell, played by Yara Shahidi, whom was in Cartoon Saloon's My Father's Dragon, along with Smallfoot, the Paw Patrol movie, and of course, Pokemon Detective Pikachu. In my eyes, Yara does a very lovely performance as one of Disney's most beloved mascots. However, unlike in the original film where she had no dialogue throughout the entire movie, Tink has dialogue in this adaptation similar to what happened in the Tinkerbell film series. However, Tink does not speak until during the end of the movie where she thanks Wendy for hearing her. Plus, I like that Tink does not show jealousy or hatred towards Wendy, and she has a friendlier relationship with her. Next is Wendy Moira Angela Darling, played by Ever Anderson, whom was a young Natasha Romanoff in the MCU's Black Widow movie. During this film, like Peter, Wendy serves as a main protagonist, and in my eyes, like her animated counterpart, she's known to be a fun-loving girl who loves to tell stories, especially the story of Peter Pan to her younger brothers. However, she also has a quite strange relationship with her father, since he told her to sleep separately from her brothers and that it's high time for her to grow up. Despite this, she cares about and loves her brothers and friends very dearly, and she is very supportive of them. Also, I think Wendy has some amazing sword skills while fighting the pirates, and I love the part where she sang her mother's lullaby song, All Grown Up, to the Lost Children, which was a song that Peter Pan knew before he came to Neverland. Next are Wendy's brothers, John and Michael, played by Joshua Pickering and Jacob E. Jupe. I find them to be very similar to their animated counterparts. John is still mature and he loves being adventurous and playful, and Michael is still clumsy, innocent, and observant. However, the scenes that make them pretty different from the original is that they captured Tinkerbell in the nursery after she blows pixie dust on a sleeping Wendy, and upon arriving in Neverland, the pirates take them without Tiger Lily to Skull Rock as bait for Peter Pan. Next up are Peter's followers, the Lost Boys, which consist of Slightly, played by Noah Matthews Matofsky, Nibs, played by Sebastian Billingsley Rodriguez, the twins, Tootie and Rudy, played by Skylar and Kelsey Yates, Curly, played by Florence Bensberg, Toodles, played by Kaylin Eddy, Birdie, played by Diana Tasoy, and Bellwether, played by Felix D. Sosa. In this version, the Lost Boys not only include boys, but also girls too, which kind of makes me think of what last year's Pinocchio film did when they included boys and girls on Pleasure Island. Now, according to the original J.M. Barrie story, it states that girls are too clever to fall out of their prams. But on the other hand, I've heard that some girls out there do not want to grow up either. Plus, believe it or not, my sister was a lost boy back during the mid-2000s at Musical Theater Village, and in 2018 at the Pacific Conservatory Theater. Also, I think these children are very relatable and memorable due to them helping Wendy rescue John and Michael from drowning at Skull Rock. Also, I like that, like other adaptations, they get adopted by the Darling family. Next on our list is Tiger Lily, the warrior princess of the Braves, played by Elisa Wapanatag. Now, firstly, the reason why I said warrior princess of the Braves is because I want to avoid controversy, just like what my friends at Musical Theater Village are doing. Anyway, in this film, Tiger Lily has a larger role than she did in the original Disney film. Plus, I think Elisa makes a greater Tiger Lily than, well, Rooney Mara. No offense. Also, I like that she's described as both a fierce warrior and a serene and benevolent leader who protects Neverland and the lost children from the dastardly Captain Hook. Also, Tiger Lily has a horse sidekick, and I think it's very interesting that she's bilingual, speaking in both English and her native language. Also, I like the scene where she gives Wendy some words of wisdom and where she nurses Peter Pan back to health after being alerted by his shadow. Next we have the film's main antagonist and captain of the Jolly Roger, Captain James Hook, played by Jude Law, whom was in AI, Artificial Intelligence, the Fantastic Beasts films, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, DreamWorks' Rise of the Guardians, and the MCU's Captain Marvel movie, which will be getting a follow-up this November. Like in the original film, he and Peter act as nemesis to one another, but in this version, Hook's motivation is more emotional. You see, this film's version of Hook is revealed to have been a former friend of Peter Pan's, who came to Neverland with him as a child. However, he soon began to miss his mother, which caused Peter to reject him, and James found himself lost at sea until he was found by Mr. Smee and raised by the pirates. He then returned to Neverland as a pirate captain, and he vows revenge on Peter, with one of their alterations ending with him losing his hand and watch to Tick-Tock the crocodile. In my opinion, while that backstory is pretty emotional, I kind of have mixed feelings about it, and it makes me like his backstory in the Pirate Fairy a lot better. And I think the two sea shanty songs, Ode to the Falling and the Behemoth performed by his crew, are pretty good, though I don't think they hold a candle to the elegant Captain Hook, A Pirate's Life, or even the songs from the stage musical like Hooray for Captain Hook, Eat Blood, or even Hook's Tango, Tarantella, and Waltz. Also to note, while Hook and George Darling were both performed by the same actor in the original play and several other adaptations, in this version, both characters are portrayed by different actors. The first time this traditional break happened was in NBC's broadcast of Peter Pan Live in 2014, where Christopher Walken played Captain Hook and Christian Borle played both Mr. Smee and George instead. Next up is Hook's first mate and my character, Mr. Smee, played by Jim Gaffigan, whom was in 13 Going on 30, 17 Again, Hotel Transylvania 3 and 4, Playmobil the movie, and Pixar's Luca. To me, like in most versions, Smee is a bumbling, yet well-meaning pirate. Plus, this version of Mr. Smee is the first adaptation of the character who suffers from some kind of disability due to him needing a bugle to hear his captain's orders. Finally, we come to Tick-Tock the crocodile. Now, we all know that this seagoing reptile is the most famous payback to a Disney villain. Ever since Peter Pan cut off Hook's hand and fed it to Tick-Tock the crocodile, he thought it really tasted good, and he wants more of him. Also, due to TikTok swallowing a watch, Hook could easily hear him coming. However, unlike in the original film where he was green, in this film, TikTok is brown, and he only appears in the Skull Rock scene. Also to note, I think this version of TikTok looked a lot better than my portrayal during the mid-2000s. And now on to my final words. Overall, Peter Pan and Wendy is not a perfect adaptation of the original J.M. Barrie play, but I still found it to be very enjoyable and entertaining. The cinematography is good, the visual effects are excellent, it has fun fight scenes, and it has a decent message about growing up. Plus, I think all the actors do an amazing job, including Ever Anderson, Yara Shahidi, Jim Gaffigan, and Jude Law. Also, I still stand by that Alexander Maloney makes a great Peter Pan actor, and he really did a great job for his first film role. Plus, I think the film's musical score is pretty good, and I like some of the changes that were featured here. However, what makes this film lose a few points for me was that TikTok had only one appearance, and I still have mixed feelings about Hook's backstory and his friendship with Peter Pan. Still, if you folks love Peter Pan, I recommend you to gather your family together and tune into Disney Plus to check it out. As for my rating, I'll give it a 73% out of 100. Now, before I go, I would like to invite everybody to see Peter Pan at Musical Theater Village. The shows will be running from June 2nd until July 2nd, 2023. And if you'd like to purchase your tickets, just go to this link for information. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to join me for my next blog, where I look at an animated Netflix film which involves adventures, pirates, and sea monsters. Mustang Power.